What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about BlackBerry. Directed by Matt Johnson, who stars in the film and wrote this film alongside Matthew Miller, based on the book titled Losing the Signal. This film most notably also stars Baruchel and Glenn Howerton. And I also want to start this off by saying a big thanks to those kind folks over at IFC Films who sent me over a screening link for this movie. Now, a lot of times I get to check out movies early thanks to this channel, whether it be bigger movies, whether I get to go to an actual theater to go check it out in person for something like Netflix, or sometimes it's just small indie films. But every here and there I'll have a studio send me a movie that's already been out because they just want to get more word of mouth on the movie. But most notably, what made me check this one out was because this movie's been out for a little bit now, and I know that some of my peers have said it's a pretty solid movie, but the email that I got was actually a for your consideration review link. So they're specifically sending this out to people as we get to the tail end of the year because they want to try to, build up some buzz to possibly get this movie into contention for some award nominations. And though I usually will skip out on watching screening links for movies that have already been out for a while because I don't really want to have to compete with trying to gain views here on YouTube for movies that people have already dropped reviews for, I still wanted to check it out because I heard a lot of good things about this one. So BlackBerry, if you're not familiar with what it's all about, chronicles the rise and fall of the famous phone, the BlackBerry. I was a kid when the BlackBerry was becoming a thing, and I remember it becoming a huge thing, and you would most notably see it within the world of business, as it was the first phone to take the idea of what a phone is, with texting and being able to talk on the phone, but also being able to use the internet in a pretty limited capacity when we look back now, but also being able to use it for emails. It completely changed the world of just business in general and became something that just the everyday consumer would want to use. And of course, this movie not only chronicles the rise of the BlackBerry, and on the one hand is an inspirational tale about getting this product that you have a dream about into the public eye, but it's also about the struggles that they faced as their competitors, most notably Apple, would start the new wave of phones that we're still riding today, the smartphones, most notably the iPhone. And so this movie chronicles the tale of the rise of the BlackBerry while also struggling to try to adapt to the modern world that we were currently still in with things like the touchscreen smartphones. And going into this movie, it's kind of something that can go either way, right? We've seen a lot of these movies that focus on new tech being brought to the world. It usually starts with some nerdy, passionate individuals who are really into engineering that have this great idea to completely elevate a new market within technology. And the movie can usually lean on one side when it comes to an inspirational tale, and on another side kind of leaning into the cautionary tale of getting into business with the wrong people. And BlackBerry is exactly that. But I'm happy to say I enjoyed the film, as I found it to be a well-performed film that utilizes solid cinematography throughout the course of the film and has a very unique musical score throughout the course of the film that oftentimes lends itself to great moments of tension as well as the offbeat humor that this movie has. The most notable thing to say about this movie is it opens up, and unlike other films that'll say based on a true story or inspired by a true story, this movie starts off by absolutely letting you know that this is a fictionalized tale based on the true story, which as you get into the movie, you can wholeheartedly tell that these characters are, of course, kind of being meant to be a little bit more exaggerative than I think they probably were in real life. Now, I'm sure there are certain individuals here that were very similar to the real life people, but there are some characters here, whether it be on the humor side of things or even on the awkward side of things or even on the business side of things, that oftentimes I feel could have possibly been overblown to fit the tone of this film, which this film is a drama in a lot of senses, but at times again leans into this offbeat humor that gives it its own unique feel and vibe. Now, what I'll say about this movie right out of the gate is that I was bored at times. I found the film to be well made, I found it to be well performed, and ultimately I do feel like it comes together all by the time we get to the end. But this is not a biopic of any sort that I am clamoring to revisit, if I'm completely and utterly honest. It's a movie I'm happy I checked out one time, but when I look at my favorites of 2023, if I'm completely and utterly honest, it's not necessarily within that conversation. But that's not to say it's a bad time, as I do mention that the performances are really solid. Let's talk about some of those characters, most notably our three leads in this film. You have Jay Baruchel playing Mike, who is the initial CEO of Research in Motion, which is the group that is creating the original BlackBerry, the original idea they have, which they call the Pocket Link. And, you know, he's this really nerdy, very awkward guy who is the CEO of this corporation, but doesn't really know how to stand up for himself, doesn't really have a business sense, and is just kind of the quiet guy in meetings. And then he has his friend Doug, who's actually played by the director and one of the writers of this film, Matt Johnson, who is just kind of that loudmouth dude, wears a bandana or wears like a headband around his head, just kind of there for the fun of it, you know, wants all the people in their office to have movie night, and is just kind of the dweeby fun guy who isn't as much of an engineer as he is kind of like the morale keeper in the office. He's the guy who tries to keep morale up, and in a lot of ways is the person who tends to speak for Jay Baruchel's Mike in a lot of meetings. Even if Jay Baruchel's Mike may want to say something else, Doug is the one who will kind of interject and be like, no, this is what we actually need to do. This is really what Mike means. And can oftentimes be the source of humor, but also can oftentimes be the source of annoyance throughout the course of the film. Though I did enjoy Matt Johnson's performance throughout the course of the film, as well as Jay Baruchel's, who when I first started the movie, I thought to myself, I'm not sure I'm really gonna like him in this role. He's got the gray hair. It's not necessarily a role that felt like something that he would typically do, but I'm happy to say that it feels like a classic Jay Baruchel role in a lot of ways, while also feeling very different, which is something I did enjoy throughout the course of the film. And I would argue that the best performance from the film comes from Glenn Howerton, who plays the character named Jim, who is a businessman who just does not feel like he's being utilized to the best of his potential, and ultimately sees Research in Motion and what they want to do, takes a risk and a gamble with them, and becomes the hard-ass businessman who helps them get their idea off the ground and into consumers' hands. But like a lot of these movies, he's part of the cautionary tale of these individuals who will try to take control. These individuals who have more of a business sense than they do a passion for the engineering and for the idea. They want to make money, and so because of that, they're willing to cut corners. Because of that, they're willing to hurt feelings. Because of that, they're willing to fire people. And so you have this group of individuals who are passionate about an idea, a small room of dweeby guys who just have engineering skills, who started this business as an opportunity to, you know, create stuff. And now they're dealing with the business side of things, and these individuals who are, you know, cracking their ass for deadlines and different things like that. And I think overall Glenn Howerton did an incredible job playing the character of Jim here, as he is probably one of the main focal points of tension throughout the course of this film. And overall, what I could say about BlackBerry is I think it's worth a watch. I don't necessarily think that this is a movie that's going to be riveting to everyone, but I did see some of my peers who review films also giving this film higher scores than me on Letterboxd, or just saying they really enjoyed the film. And so I think that there is going to be a percentage of the audience who thinks this is a really solid film, and I also think it's a solid film. I thought it was very well made, very well acted. It's got a great musical score, as I mentioned, great cinematography that oftentimes feels like a mockumentary throughout the course of the film, but in the best possible ways. And, you know, it's just a very well crafted film that by the time the movie comes to a close, I feel wraps up everything really nicely. Though I have to be honest from my own personal perspective and say that I felt bored at times throughout the course of the film. I kept feeling this inclination to look at my phone or to look at how much longer I had in the movie, which I typically don't do when I watch movies, especially if the movie is grabbing me. And so in the case of BlackBerry, it's not one I'm clamoring to revisit, but it is a movie I think was worth checking out, and I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say about BlackBerry. So did you like BlackBerry? Did you not like BlackBerry? Whatever the case may be, leave any and all comments down below, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Bye-bye.